Welcome back to Music Kingdom. Regardless of whether you are the youngest generation, my generation, or an older generation, I felt it was absolutely necessary to remind whoever watches this of one of the true iconic masterpieces in all of music history. And so, in this video we will be listening to, giving a music theory breakdown for, and reviewing Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. Hang tight. Hey music lovers, my name is Francis. If you'd like to support the work I put into these videos, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel even further, you'll find Music Kingdom's Patreon and other affiliate links in the description below. Alright, now before we give the song a listen, for any fellow music nerds and historians out there, first we will briefly talk about the history of this iconic song, Unchained Melody. Now, in case you didn't know, in the year 1955, there was a prison film titled Unchained, which of course had a musical theme or score composed for it, which naturally was titled Unchained Melody. Now, of course, like a majority of you watching this video, I also grew up on the song Unchained Melody, and I remember when I eventually would learn why it was called Unchained Melody, because admittedly I never knew why it was called that, because the lyrics never really had anything to do with the song's name. And I just remember thinking, duh, like, oh, of course, no wonder it's called Unchained Melody if it's the melody composed for a movie called Unchained. And so, regarding the original piece, the music was composed by Alex North, the lyrics were written by Hy Zarrett, and the vocals were performed by Todd Duncan. Now get this, I've got my little facts going. In 1955 alone, 3 versions of the song charted the US Billboard Top 10, while 4 versions were simultaneously charting the UK's Top 20. That's just in 1955 alone. And since then, it has become one of the most recorded and covered songs in the 20th century. According to the song's publishing administrator, over 1,500 recordings of Unchained Melody have been made by more than 670 artists in multiple languages, including, of course, the great Elvis Presley in 1978, but most notably by the Righteous Brothers in 1965 from their album titled Just Once in My Life. Now, if we fast forward so many years later, like many others being a 90s baby who grew up on Whoopi Goldberg movies, I was introduced to the song Unchained Melody when it was given new life by the blockbuster hit movie Ghost from 1990. I'm assuming most of us, at least above a certain age, have seen the movie Ghost, and we all remember that very famous clay sensual scene between Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze when, of course, the song Unchained Melody begins to play and it gets very steamy. Speaking for myself, however, if I were to look back and try to remember when I really fell in love with the song, it wasn't actually that very famous scene. For me, it was the very end of the film, I think exactly the final scene of the film. At that exact beautiful moment of the scene, an orchestral version of Unchained Melody began to play by the film's composer as part of the movie's score, and I remember that exact moment just getting goosebumps at the sheer beauty of that rendition of the song. And to be honest, pretty much every time I've watched that movie since childhood, I still get the goosebumps. So yes, that is when and how I fell in love with the song, and just subjectively speaking, of all of the various versions out there, it happens to be my favorite rendition of it. But of course, having said all of that, the Righteous Brothers version is easily the most iconic and, let's be honest, the best. Which of course is why we are reviewing it. And so, at long last, it's time we give the song a listen, and just a heads up, I will be pausing about halfway through to give my thoughts and to avoid any copyright strikes. And of course, as always, be sure to stick around after the song for a music theory breakdown from our expert, and then we're going to divide the song into specific categories, grading them each, and arriving at an overall score.
Oh, my love, my darling,
Never gets old.
I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time.
So tender and vulnerable.
And time goes by so slowly, and time
usage of strings was
can do
brilliant.
so much. Are you still more? I need your love.
Beautiful voice.
I need your love.
You really feel it.
God, speed your love to me.
It's no wonder Elvis covered it as well, because the vocal style is very similar.
Lonely rivers flow to the sea.
I love what the strings are doing.
To the open arms of the sea, yeah. Lonely riverside, wait for me, wait for me.
Thoughts so far, and it's something that I still think about all these years later. This was the quality of radio hits in the 1960s. And yes, obviously, a vast majority of lyrics in music, past and present, are romantic. However, in my opinion, to write something so vulnerable, so desperate, so tender, and then to successfully, effectively convey those exact emotions, but with the vocal delivery provided, is stunning. And on top of all of that, and the strings, and the horns, and the harmonies, so on and so forth, when you remember the context, that the lyrics were written based on this prison film, when you hear lyrics like, "I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time, and time goes by so slowly," in my opinion, it makes even more sense, and it hits even harder.
I'll be coming home, wait for me. Oh, my love.
Amazing. It's a perfect slow burn song.
I've hungered for your touch.
The desperation
Oh,
effectively conveyed.
Lord, time. And
The subtle uses of piano as well, the horns now, the choir, beefing up.
so slowly, and time can do so much. Are you still more?
Wow.
I need your love.
Exquisite. This outro with the strings, for me, makes the song. Timeless. All right, initial thoughts. As I mentioned, timeless. And what makes music timeless? What makes music immortal? In my opinion, the answer is beauty. And that's the thing, you know, whether you're into newer music, whether you're into hip hop, whether you're into metal, something that, in my opinion, anybody can agree on and get into, even if it's not their thing or their favorite decade or their favorite genre, is true, genuine beauty in music. And I mean that final 30, 60, 90 seconds alone with the emotion and the passion and the soul. I won't say that no new music has any of those qualities, but in my opinion, generally speaking, they just don't make music like this anymore. And I have so many more thoughts regarding the production, the vocals, the lyrics, the originality, so on and so forth, which I will explain further when I'm breaking apart the song into the categories, grading them each, arriving at an overall song score. But first, let's go to the expert's corner for a music theory breakdown and to hear which score he gives the category of composition.
Welcome to the Experts Corner. I'm here to give a composition score for Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers. This song is in the time signature of 6/8 and it's in the key of C major. So this song compositionally is incredibly simple, at least when you're talking about the chord structures. The verses follow a very simple 1-6-4-5 pattern, which is this: C major, A minor, F major, and G major. And then it goes into a 1-5-6-3, which I love. It sounds like this: C major, G major, A minor, and then the 3, which is an E minor. When that hits, it's heartbreaking in just the best way. As simple as this song is chords-wise, it does make one move that I've always found to be a little weird and unexpected and just really cool. This happens in the bridges. It plays what I would call a flat 3, which is an E flat. It goes, lonely rivers flow to the sea, to the sea. That chord right there, it pops. It sounds weird. We're not expecting it, and I think that's really cool. So normally I would take points off of a song for being this simple. However, this song is going to get an 8 out of 10 for me for 3 reasons. The first reason is the string arrangements. They managed to take this very simple chord pattern and elevate it to something that is incredibly beautiful. The second reason is the melodies, the vocal melodies, the string melodies. It is all so beautiful, and it really, as I said for the first point, elevates something that is at its core very simple. And lastly, this song gets such a high score from me because it's one of the only songs I know that is so basic and so beautiful at the same time. I really do love this song, and listening to it again made me just want to sit on the couch and watch Ghost. Back to you, Francis.
A very special thank you to our expert.
A very special thank you to our expert for providing a music theory breakdown and scoring the song's composition a very strong 8 out of 10. Which I would have to agree with, even though I'm by no means an expert. I just think it's important to remember that while a song's compositional complexity, structurally speaking, can earn it a high score out of 10, sometimes we have to remember the beauty, the passion, the soul, the emotion of a song when being composed is also worth a high score as well, even if it is difficult to put a number on something that is such an intangible. And now, without further ado, we have 4 more categories to score, and then we're going to average them out, arriving at an overall song score. Starting with production specifically, I'm inclined to give it a very, very strong 9 out of 10. And to be fair, with a song this old, judging production can be a little bit tricky because it did not mean back then what it means now regarding either mixing, sound levels, technology, sound effects, reverb, autotune, pitched vocals, well-crafted beats, so on and so forth. In a time like this, it does kind of bleed into the category of composition as our expert described, but I am going to take it a little bit further because, in my opinion, production at this time really did look a lot like deciding to throw horns at a song, throwing strings at a song, and not just the decision to do that to begin with, but then how you use the strings. How are you going to use the harmonies that you're incorporating into the song? How are you going to use the horns? How are you going to know when to throw the touches of piano when they perfectly accent the song? Creative decisions like that, when putting together a song that would otherwise just be a pretty melody, perhaps acoustic or over a piano, turning it into this epic, orchestral, musical, instrumental masterpiece behind the vocals. And to me, that is exactly what it is. A masterpiece, as reflected with the score of a 9 out of 10. Up next, we have the category of lyrics, which I am also giving a very strong 9 out of 10. Truth be told, evidently, historically, proof is in the pudding. These are some of the most iconic lyrics in the history of the music industry. As mentioned earlier in this video, the way these lyrics are written perfectly capture the emotions of desperation, tenderness, romance, vulnerability, heartache, misery, passion, and to do so in such an otherwise simple way is very impressive in my opinion, and to do it in such a poetic way as well. Sometimes, lyrically speaking, when a song is trying to convey those types of emotions, it's a little too on the nose, or it's too literal, or they try too hard, but with a song like this, it is just so inspired. And to top it all off, as mentioned, when you remember the context of the lyrics being based on the movie about prison, it all starts to make even more sense of why this person is missing their other person so much and where that pain is coming from. Time can do so much. Are you still mine? I've hungered for your touch a long, lonely time. I mean, shit. 9 out of 10. That's how you do it. All right, up next we have the category of vocals, and I'm inclined to give them yet another 9 out of 10. And I swear, you guys, in case you're new to the channel, I do not just easily hand out 9s, but it really is well deserving. When talking about an exceptional vocal delivery in a song, you've got to have versatility, you've got to have a lot of different things in order for it to be such a high score. So that would be things like vibrato, that would be things like falsetto, that would be things like vocal runs, that would be things like belting, and not just belting, belting perfectly. And not just belting perfectly with soul and passion and emotion. Vocally speaking, the singing in this song is by no means one-dimensional or a one-trick pony. It is all over the place, showing off pretty much just about anything one person can do with their voice in a single song. 9 out of 10. All right, arriving at our final category of originality, I'm inclined to give it an even more rare 9.5 out of 10. Do you guys remember when I said, according to the song's publishing administrator, over 1,500 recordings of Unchained Melody have been made by more than 670 artists in multiple languages? Why is that? In my opinion, because it is one of the most original and inspired and creative and expressive and artistic songs to ever exist in music. And if you disagree with me, that is your own prerogative and you are within your right to do so, but I would say, in my defense, the proof historically is in the pudding. This is a song with such beauty, that is so well arranged, that is so stunningly beautifully written, that so many other people felt the need, felt the urge, the inclination to sing it themselves. And that regardless of whichever cover or rendition of Unchained Melody you're listening to, at least speaking for myself, it is still going to hit you in a certain way. And I realize such a feeling, such an emotion is intangible, is difficult to articulate, is difficult to analyze, and certainly difficult to put a number on and score. But if I'm going to attempt it, in my opinion, the only appropriate way to do so is to praise its originality and any other synonymous words that come to mind. So now if we add it all up, including the expert's composition score, and average it out, Unchained Melody, in this case by the Righteous Brothers, released in 1965 from their album Just Once in My Life, gets an exceptionally strong 8.9 out of 10. Easily one of the highest scores we've ever given a song on this channel yet. And honestly, for all of the aforementioned reasons, rightfully so. But of course, that is just my take. So naturally, in the comments down below, let me know whether or not you agree. Am I right on the money? Am I batshit crazy? Am I somewhere in between? As well as what you personally think of the song and what other songs you'd like for this channel to review next. As usual, if you would like to support myself and the work I put into these videos, click the like button and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you'd like to support the channel even further, you'll find Music Kingdom's Patreon and other affiliate links in the description below. This has been another edition of Music Kingdom. Thank you so much for listening with me, and I look forward to jamming with you in the next one.